My friend has two different colored eyes. Can you explain how that works?
Yes, that's a great question. So how do some people have two different color eyes?
I don't think you stopped it.
So this is really interesting. So let me just real quick. So this is where sort of the conversation comes in. Is this true? Do you really know somebody who has two different colored eyes? Okay, it's not unusual with other animals, but this is not something that I actually knew about. So we just entered a conversation where you know more than me. You know that people can have two different colored eyes. I didn't know that for sure until right now. And so what color are their eyes?
It's like
One
green, one is green.
One is blue and one is brown.
One is blue and one is brown. Yeah, okay.
It's green.
So let's think for a second about how that couldn't have happened. I mean, it obviously did happen, but there is one way in which we can kind of think, oh, maybe it happened this way, but if we kind of follow the logic, it can't happen that way. So let's imagine that we have a parent who has, what were the colors again? Green?
Pretty sure it's blue.
Blue and
hazel.
blue and hazel. Let's say blue and brown just to keep it simple, okay? Blue and brown. So we're gonna super simplify here. We're gonna say that we have an eye color gene and there's only one, which isn't true, but we're gonna simplify. And we're gonna say there's only two alleles. There's the blue allele and there's the brown allele, all right? So let's say that this individual had one parent who had blue eyes. So that parent had the recessive blue allele. So we'll say this is recessive. So they had the recessive blue allele, and the other parent was heterozygous. So the other parent had brown eyes, but they had two different alleles. One dominant brown allele and one recessive blue allele, all right? So what makes the most sense to answer this question when we look at the possibilities is, well, so during meiosis, any one of these is equally likely, right? So the one parent could contribute either this or this allele to a gamete, the other parent could contribute either this or this to a gamete. So what makes the most sense is that the person you know got one of these and one of these. And that's how it happened, right? So this was the combination. They got a combination of our possibilities. But here's the thing. This is not how sexual reproduction works. You don't get a couple of these when you reproduce sexually. Each one of these represents the outcome of one fertilization event. Each individual is the product of one fertilization event. When two gametes fuse, one sperm and one egg, they will only have one of these four possibilities. 25% of the time it'll be this one, 25% of the time it'll be this one, a quarter of the time it'll be this one, and a quarter of the time it'll be this one. If your friend has a brown eye, then the initial fertilized egg must have looked like this. There would have been one gamete, we could say it was the sperm, and the other gamete would have been the egg that fused together to form this one cell fertilized egg. From that one cell, there would have been cell division, so that would have divided in two, and we would have ended up with two cells that are both heterozygous. Then those cells would have divided, and we would have ended up with four cells that were each heterozygous. And if you keep going, you'll realize there's a problem here. Every single cell division has got to result in a cell that's heterozygous, which means every single cell division is going to have one of those brown-eyed alleles, which means we have to have something to add to our explanation of what happened here. What are we going to add? Mistakes. And there's two ways that you can get a mistake. One is in the allele itself. So at some point, there may have been a split here that resulted in one of the cells being heterozygous and the other ended up being homozygous recessive. There was an error in replicating the DNA when this cell divided, and the end result is they got this blue allele. The other potential thing that happened was that there was some other error that affected some other gene. And so while this individual still has the brown-eyed allele, some other gene is causing the system to malfunction. There's all sorts of things that have to happen for proteins to be made. One of the things that has to happen is that there have to be special molecules called promoters that attach to DNA at the right spot that will then initiate transcription and create a messenger RNA strand. And it may be that for this one particular gene, the promoter got broken. So maybe they have the right allele, but they have the wrong promoter. And it would be really difficult to tease it out, but this is how it would happen. And then you can imagine that what happens, because like we have trillions of cells in our body. So this cell division is going on trillions of times. So each one of these cells ends up with billions of daughter cells associated with it. This one mistake ends up being responsible for billions of cells, some of which might have been the cells that ended up making your friend's eye. And that's how you get this kind of stuff. Isn't that awesome? All right, that I believe is all we're gonna have time for. But hold on.